I'd like to call to order the August 8th Kankakee County Board meeting. Today's invocation will be from Roger Hess.
Heavenly Father, from whom all power comes, we thank you for our freedom, our opportunities, and our privileges. We beg of you to bless, assist, and enlighten the elected officials and concerned citizens gathered here today. May we prove worthy of the confidence placed in us by our fellow citizens. May we be just and upright in our thinking, honest in all our actions, and ever be guided by the true conscience in the legislation we propose or vote upon. Forgive us our mistakes and selfish tendencies, and help prepare us by good deeds for an eternal union with you. Father, we also ask that you watch over and protect all people serving in the military at home and abroad. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize. In the future, I'll move to the side so you can actually see the flag. It's like an eclipse. Can I get a roll call, please, Mr. Clark? Wear a flag on the back. There you go. And a tie? Okay.
Mr. Tripp.
Present.
Mr. Washington.
Present.
Mr. Legess. Mr. Stauffenberg.
Present.
Mr. Vickery.
Present.
Mr. Olthoff. Mr. Hess.
Present.
Mr. Tholen.
Present.
Mrs. Polk.
Present.
Mr. McConnell.
Present.
Mr. Mulcahy.
Present.
Mr. Scott.
Present.
Mr. Snipes.
Present.
Mr. Byrne.
Present.
Mr. Seroy.
Present.
Mr. Lear.
Present.
Mr. Hildebrand. Mrs. Weber.
Present.
Mr. Einfeld. Mrs. Peters.
Present.
Mrs. Evans.
Present.
Mr. Payton.
Present.
Mrs. Parker.
Present.
Ms. Dunbar.
Present.
Mr. Ritter.
Present.
And Mr. Wheeler.
Present. We have a quorum. Public commentary today. I have Wes Sons. Microphone, sir. The back.
Morning, everybody. I was here for a couple times here recently. It's been another month now. Regarding the code issues next door to me, I brought in some pictures last time to show people since nobody seems to come out and look at what's going on out there. Neighbors are still building new construction with used material. Still going on. Nothing's changed. The cattle are still there. Actually, there's more cattle than there was. They're still contaminating my soil. They're still contaminating my water. They're still contaminating the air I breathe. Good thing I don't get food from them. Otherwise, I'd probably be dead. The non-conforming buildings that they've got there are still being used and still being added to. Nothing has changed in the numerous amount of code violations being allowed. Is it fair to say that I can just add a 2,000 square foot addition to my garage with no taxes, no permits, no inspections, nothing? That's what's going on over there. Maybe a few mobile homes, we get a couple extra income, rental income, since nobody's inspecting and nobody cares what's going on. Of course it's not allowed, but if everybody else can do it, why shouldn't I, right? The place looks like a dump. I've been bringing it up. I've talked to the health department, the code enforcement department, the county board now, and with still no results. My next move, I guess, will be Channel 7 in legal matters. I didn't want to get into that, but this is getting disgusting. It's a disgrace to my property and the neighboring property, and the fact that nobody's doing anything. I don't want to waste your time. I've been here a few times, only have 5 minutes. I'd kind of like to hear the answers from the last 2 meetings I was at. What's anybody going to do? Everybody here knows about it. I'm trying to come here today to get an answer. Is anybody going to do anything about this stuff? It's the same answer I got from the code department. Nothing. How long should I complain? Should I start spending my money to make the neighbors clean up their act? Or should I come here and ask you people who are being paid to do this? Code enforcement's being paid. I know there's recent budget cuts. You know, I've got a lot of them myself. But I can't let things go. You can't just say I don't do my job because there's budget cuts. If I did that where I work, I'd be out of work. I just came here today to get some answers. I figured it's been 6 weeks. It's been years that I've been bringing up about the cattle, the fences, and the building. Still no answer. Since 2012, that building was put up. It has never been signed off, never had the final inspection done. I pulled a copy of the septic field over there. The septic field, just like I said it was, I thought it was about 40% underneath the building. It's not. It's about 65% underneath the building that they were allowed to put in. So nobody has inspected nothing. This pole barn they put up was a cement block building before they even applied for a permit. So nobody, you know, when you go for a permit, the first thing you say, where's your septic? Where's your electric? Where's your well? So nobody ever looked at anything from any department in Kankakee County. Nobody inspected the electric, nothing. And they've added, I've been bringing it up, they've been adding new additions with used material for years, and they're still doing it. They were out there last night, until 10 o'clock last night, building. I don't know how long this will go on before somebody's gonna do anything. You know, I don't know if this is a place to come and ask for an answer. You guys have my phone number, my address, my name. I haven't got a call, haven't got a letter. Apparently it's just done. When I walk out the door here, that's the end of any action that I've been getting. Anybody here got any answers of somebody gonna do something?
Sir, this is just for public comment, and it is appreciated public comment. Do you have anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. The board members are concerned they should check out the PZA committee meeting video where a lot of these questions were answered, and also attend the PZA committee meeting this month where a re-explanation of the situation will come from our planning department. Thank you. Moving on, under presentations, we have Melissa Cahoon from Aqua, Illinois. Talk a little bit about the rate increase proposal, and she has a presentation right up over here, Melissa. I have Craig Blanchett also. The support staff. You're the Van White. Let me turn this on. There we go.
Okay. Thanks, Chairman Wheeler and County Board members. Andy asked me to come today to present on the rate filing that Aqua recently did, so thank you for the opportunity to present in front of the board. So I do have a presentation. You guys have all the information in front of you also, and then there's a couple additional handouts for you. So if you can go to the next slide. So just some Kankakee County facts. So the water treatment plant in Kankakee has always been a private-owned utility. It's been an investor-owned operation since 1886, so just over 130 years we've been here in the county. We were one of the first filtered water filtration plants in Illinois. We have a rated capacity at the treatment plant of 22 million gallons. And one of the things I want to point out with that is while we're rated at 22 million gallons, realistically, we can only push about 18 million gallons through that plant. And the reasoning behind that is because we need to backwash filters. There's maintenance that needs to be done. So on any given day, if I'm pushing 18 million gallons through that plant, we're at full capacity. The storage capacity that we have in Kankakee County is 16 million gallons. So that's all of our tanks, water towers that we have in place. So with 16 million gallons of storage, we can probably supply the county for about a day, maybe a day and a half on if we need to shut down the plant. The surface water source is the Kankakee River. So we do pull from the Kankakee River, which is one of the cleanest in the Midwest. And recently we just won the best tasting water in the state of Illinois. So we're incredibly proud of that. Our guys at the plant and the guys out in the field do a great job maintaining the system and making sure we are putting out that high quality water. This is just a picture of the front of the water treatment plant. So it is in historic Riverview. And the question that everybody is really curious about and interested in is what's going on at the water treatment plant. So if you've driven by there, there is a ton of construction going on. And it is a little bit aggravating, but if you can bear with us, we'll get through this project. We'll restore everything. It'll look absolutely beautiful by the time that we're done. But what are we doing? So what we are constructing right now is a new 12 million gallon a day clarifier. And the picture that's there actually shows the new Claricone. So that's a newer technology that we actually have in place, or newer technology than what we have in place, I guess I should say. So the new Claricone can actually do the work of 2 clarifiers that we currently have in place. And the reasoning that, or the reason behind why we need that is, main reason is to improve reliability. So right now, if we have a drought, I mean, it's not a drought year right now, so what I'm pushing through the plant right now is probably about 11 to 12 million gallons a day. And if you remember, 18 is probably my maximum capacity. So if I have a clarifier go down right now in our summer months, which is usually our highest demand, I cannot fix that. We'll let that stay in operation until our demand drops, and then I can pull that clarifier out of service and do the necessary repairs that we would need. So by installing this new Claricone, it'll give us the ability to make those repairs as soon as they happen and when they're necessary. So once we finish the Claricone, our capacity will increase to 30 million gallons a day. And some of the benefits behind that is it's going to allow us to keep business retention. If you look at CSL right now, they're doing a huge expansion also. So they're going to increase the demand on our plant by about 1.6 million gallons a day. So in addition to improving the reliability of the water treatment plant, that's going to allow us to meet the demand of any new industry that comes into place. It's going to allow for growth. If you look at some of the interchanges, anticipating a lot of growth and development around those. If they come into place, we do have the ability to meet that demand and the expansion that may be necessary. And then it's also going to allow for job creation. Some of the other things that we're doing in addition to putting in the new Claricone are new chemical feed systems. So it's an old plant. We've been in operation since 1886. There's a lot of upgrades that are needed at that water treatment plant. So the main things that we're going to do is we're going to upgrade our lime and our carbon dioxide feeds. And then we're going to replace outdated control valves. So there's a lot of valves at the plant and electrical equipment. This is just to show you some of the construction. If you haven't seen it, it was a pretty amazing feat. The contractors out there, they've moved fast. They've done a great job. So the picture on the left is kind of showing, they had just gotten started. They moved quickly, so they're digging the hole. The picture on the right is the new carbon dioxide feeds. So there's 2 new white towers in place, which are the carbon dioxide feeds. This next picture shows construction. It's a little bit further along. So the structure that's in front is actually, it's going to be more of like a building. It's going to hold all the controls for the Claricone, and then in the back you kind of see a little white cone. That's where that Claricone is going to go into place. So we did bury it because a Claricone it's a very, very big structure. So this is, I believe it's about 40 to 50 feet below ground, and it still does come up. So if we had not buried that and put it below ground, we would have like a big spaceship out at that water treatment plant basically. And then this is probably the most recent picture I have, but it's even changed. I actually went out to the plant yesterday and took a look at it, and it's a lot taller right now. So you can see that Claricone is coming into play, and then you can see the building right next to it. So some of the capital investment, to give you an idea of kind of what Aqua is doing throughout the communities, in 2016, this is just a graph that shows you where we invested most of our capital dollars. And usually it's in water mains. We're replacing infrastructure. We're upgrading the size of mains. We look at, hey, is there any issues with water quality? If we have issues with water quality or small mains, undersized mains, we want to replace those because that's going to increase fire protection, improve that water quality, and improve the reliability of our system. So you can see 71% was in water mains. And I think that's 18% for the water treatment plant. And then if you flip to 2017, which is your next slide, You can see now we're putting 75% into that water treatment plant, which again, normally it's in infrastructure. Right now we need to improve the reliability of the water treatment plant. So we've been pretty lucky if you look at it. So back in the drought year, was that 2012, 13? We were pushing close to 17 million gallons through the plant. So on that year, if I would have had a basin that I needed to repair, I would not have been able to do that. I would not have been able to take that clarifier or any of our basins out of service because I was pushing so much water out into the community. So that extra Claricone or that new Claricone that we're putting into place does allow us to keep everything in operation, continue to supply the community with the water supply, and meet the demand. And then the other question that everybody wants to know about is the rate filing that we just recently did with the ICC. So we did file a rate case with the ICC, which is your Illinois Commerce Commission. We filed on May 1st. It is an 11-month process to get that approved. So right now we're going through data requests. We're going back and forth. There's lawyers, judges, the Attorney General is actually involved. It's about an 11-month process. So next year is when new rates will go into effect. The last filing we did was on May 8th of 2014. And this particular rate case covers the period of 2016 to 2018. And we are consolidating Kankakee with the entire state. With Kankakee County, and this is only for Kankakee County, not the entire state. Kankakee County, we were able to support a rate increase of 18.9% or about $4.5 million, which means our total revenue would increase to about $28.8 million. And Kankakee is our biggest division in the state of Illinois. So Kankakee generates 38% of our statewide revenue. So what does that mean for the average residential customer? So average residential customer uses about 4,500 gallons of water. And so basically your increase that average customer will see is about a 15.3%. So even though we can support, was it the 18%? We did keep that at 15.3% for Kankakee. So your increase is about $8 per month or 27 cents per day. And we're still at about a penny per gallon. So if you look at people who buy bottled water, if they happen to buy bottled water, you pay about $1.20 per gallon if you're purchasing water individually. If you're getting it from the tap, it still is probably the most economical way. It's about a penny per gallon. The other thing that the rate filing will do is right now we call it a QIPS surcharge, which is a qualifying infrastructure plant surcharge. That's going to go to 0% on your bill, so you won't see that on your bill anymore. And then we also like to point out that the rate filing only allows us the opportunity to earn that fair rate of return. It is never guaranteed. So some of the capital investment, which I did touch on the water treatment plant, that's the biggest chunk of the capital investment that we've done from 2016 to 2018. But during that time period, we spent $36 million in capital investment. And again, biggest chunk of that is water mains and then the water treatment plant. So there's been state highway projects, water main replacements. The water main we put along Route 45. A lot of improvements at the water treatment plant for reliability, the plant expansion, and then the other thing that we do every year is water meter replacement. So water meters have to be replaced every 10 years, and that's a requirement that we need to abide by. So we replace the meters every 10 years, and then we're also upgrading the radio read device. So on the outside of your home, there's a radio read device. It's either a Census or an Itron, and the upgrade that we're doing is Itron. And what Itron radio read devices allow us to do is pull in daily reads. So one of the things I get a lot are customers calling saying, hey, I've got this huge bill, what happened? And now what we have the ability to do is go back, look at the history and pull daily reads. And I can say, hey, on Saturday, you used X amount of gallons and you know what happened during that time frame. Everything else looks okay. Were you watering? Did you leave your hose on? What happened? Maybe there's a toilet running. And it helps them pinpoint what may have happened in the home. And then for Kankakee County, we have over $4.02 of investment for every dollar of revenue that's generated. The industry average is $3.35. Basically, what that means is we put more money into our capital investment, not the expense side of things. So the expense side, so operation and maintenance, so that's your chemical costs, that's the guys out in the field. So we have been able to hold our O&M expense to an average of 0.7% annual increase. And that's basically the main reason behind that is savings that we've recognized in electric supply, interest. We refinanced bonds, thank you, and transportation costs. So O&M expense per customer is $285 for Kankakee. O&M to revenue is 30%. And again, that kind of goes back to capital investment. We're able to put 70% back into capital investment, which is your water mains, which is the capital investment is more of a benefit to the customer. We're increasing the reliability of the system. Power supply, we were able to lock in our supply through 2020. I think it actually might be 2021 now, but it's at 0.039 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a great rate for us. And more of that customer bill is supporting that capital investment. Some of the other factors driving the rate filing that we recently did are increased regulatory requirements. So we have to enforce a cross-connection control program. Basically, that's a backflow program. So Aqua is responsible for implementing, maintaining that, and having the policy in place. The other big driver behind it was Part 280. So the Commerce Commission put in new regulations, and it affected your gas, electric, water, sanitary, and basically this new program put in a lot of customer-friendly benefits. So there's now, you can do budget billing. So kind of what NICOR does. So NICOR, you can sign up and you can pay the same amount every month. You can now do that with Aqua too. You can call our customer service and they can set you up on that budget billing. There's also payment arrangements. So if your bill gets high, you can call and we'll work out that payment arrangement for you. We'll spread it out. Normally it was 3 to 4 months. We can go longer now. So we'll work with the customers to spread that out to make it more affordable for the customer. To kind of put it in perspective, if you look at someone like ComEd spent about $20 million to implement all the new changes with Part 280. We spent about $2 million to implement all the changes. We're not quite on the scale of ComEd, but it was a lot of changes that everybody had to abide by. The other factor driving the rate case is conservation. So you can see back in 2010, average customer was using about 5,200 gallons. We see that decline every year. A lot of reasons behind it. People are more environmentally conscious. They're upgrading their appliances in the home. So now we see it at the 4,500 for 2017. So as people use less, that will drive a rate filing. So why a case now? So why are we filing? In addition to the capital investment that we're trying to recoup, if we file now, we are hoping that we can stay out of a rate filing for 6 to 8 years now. And there's 3 primary reasons for that. One is capital investment. ICC implemented a new QIP rule, which is qualifying infrastructure plant surcharge. So now we can, actually, Craig, I may ask you to speak to that one a little bit more.
So, excuse me, everybody sees on your bill a QIP surcharge, right? So a QIP surcharge is a special surcharge that allows Aqua to invest only in replacement of existing assets that benefit our current customers, right? Not growth, not expansion, not things like that. The reason for it is because there's investment needed every year in our system. Ongoing investment is critical, and the commission has recognized that. And so what they've said is we'll allow for this QIP surcharge, which is regulated and reconciled by the commission every year. We'll allow it because it allows us to stay out of rate cases for longer periods of time, right? And so they've made some enhancements to that rule that will allow us to continue to invest annually in our infrastructure and replace existing infrastructure that benefits our current customers and help us stay out of rate increases longer, right? At the end of the day, the customer pays the same amount. It's just whether or not it's in the form of the surcharge on the bill or in their base rates. The next piece is the volume imbalancing adjustment. Basically, this is like a decoupling mechanism, right? And so Melissa mentioned about the declining usage every year, about 1.6%. Well, what happens with that, right? If you got the same costs or increased costs moving forward, if you're getting less amount of consumption and you're selling less gallons, the math works pretty simple, right? You got to increase the unit price in order to recover the same amount of money, right? And so what we're proposing is something that the gas companies have had for some time now, and it's called an adjustment. Basically, it says is that there's an adjustment that goes on each year for the shortfall in the consumption that our customers are billed for, and it appears as a surcharge on the bill. The opposite is also true, right? And so if we have a industry that ramps up and they start to use a lot more water, which we anticipate will be the case, and our consumption revenues exceed those that are budgeted in our rate case, then there's actually a credit that goes on the customer's account, right? And so it's a revenue neutral mechanism for us, but at the end of the day, the important part is that it keeps us out of rate cases for longer periods of time because there's an adjustment there that takes place. Again, all regulated, monitored, and reconciled by the Illinois Commerce Commission. The last piece is consolidation. In most places we go, we talk about consolidation. It's a bit of a foreign concept. But here it's not, because we've been consolidated in Kankakee County for a long time. Bradley, Kankakee, Bourbonnais, Manteno, Grant Park, all these communities have been on the same regional water system for years and years, right? Very similar to what our friends in the gas and the electric industry have been doing forever. Well, it's not that way in most places, and the water industry is moving in that direction. Essentially what it does allows us to aggregate together systems for rate-making purposes only, not operations, but for rate-making purposes, to aggregate them together to get more efficiency and economies of scale. And so if you look, our systems that have been consolidated across the state, over the past 10 years, the average annual increase in water has been about a 2.5% annual increase in rates. And on the sewer side, it's been about 1%. And so we found that consolidation leads to rate stabilization and even in some cases rate decreases, right? And so those are the three factors that really are going into this case that help us say with confidence that upon completion of this case that we'll be able to stay out for a prolonged period of time. We're doing the plant enhancements we've really wanted to do for a long time. You can see the investment going into the infrastructure grid that Melissa's talking about, the water main replacements, and that continues on and on, right? But with these three mechanisms in place, we really believe that our folks in Kankakee can stay at least base rate neutral for a long time.
Thank you.
Do I talk to this one too?
I do.
All right, so I knew the question would come up, so we wanted to put this slide in there so everyone could see rate history, right? And so I went back and we took all the rate cases we had over the past 10 years, and we wanted to summarize them for you. And so if you look back, back 10 years ago, and I go back 10 years because if you look at the first case at the very top, that case in 2010 actually covered the period of 2008 through the end of 2011. And so if you take the past 10 years, you look across there, the revenue received off the system has increased by an average of about 2.9%. That's the revenue we generate from all of our customers, an annual increase of about 2.9%. During that same period, the average customer, based on about 4,800 gallons, their bill, what they feel on their bill, increased by about 3% annually. And during that same amount of time, Aqua's net investment, not total investment, but the net investment in the system less depreciation, increased by 4.6% over the same period of time. So, when you look at the history on it, you look at the ICC approved increases, there's percentage increases on the side, but what does it really mean to customers and what is the actual increase in revenue? It's about 2.9% a year. Good.
Okay, so some of the benefits to Aqua customers are when we consolidate, and with Aqua being across 8 different states, there is a lower cost for capital investment. So we can purchase things at a much lower cost than a lot of municipalities can. There's also system reliability and redundancy. So all the investment that we make, again, I go back to when we look at our water mains, we're looking at water quality. Are people complaining about the quality of the water? Are they undersized? Do we need to upsize that main and increase fire protection? Or is it simply, it's an old main and it needs to be replaced? Improve fire protection, which I just mentioned. The capacity for economic development and growth. So with the water treatment plant project that we have going on, that will allow for growth. It'll allow for the redundancy that we need. It'll allow for new industries to come, and we will be able to say with confidence, hey, yes, we can meet the demand. We can supply what you need on the water side. It provides immediate construction jobs for Kankakee County. And again, I do like to stress that we did win the best tasting water in Illinois, something we are incredibly proud of. And then I think this is the last slide. So Aqua goals. So we always want to make sure that we're providing a quality product and service to our customers. We want to make sure we're improving that reliability of the system, improving water quality, enhancing fire protection, and fewer estimated bills. That goes back to the new radio read devices that we're installing throughout the communities. We want to make sure we're providing quality jobs. We want to promote public education on the river watershed. So one of the things that we do, festivals, we're at a lot of festivals, and we talk a lot about source water protection. We talk about the work that we do. We collect bugs out of the river and why those macroinvertebrates that we find are important to the river and why they can be an indicator of that water quality. We want to support economic development, and we want to continuously invest in Kankakee County. And then with that, I think the last slide is questions. There we go.
Just a moment, please. I will mention that this is a question time period. We're going to have a more robust discussion on this later. If there is discussion about personal viewpoints and constituencies, or this is the time to ask questions of Aqua, if you could, please. Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 18.9% increase for the first year, have you thought about taking the increases over 6 years at 2.5% to 3% instead of taking one big lump sum?
So that's what we filed for. So that's not approved right now. So, and I'll speak to it, Craig, if you want to add in. When we do a rate filing, there's a lot of costs associated with a rate filing. So you don't want to go in every year and ask for a 2% increase every year, because that's a cost that's going to be pushed back to the customers with the rate filing.
You can't negotiate this over a period of time saying we want to do this over 8 years instead of 1 year?
Yeah, so really what's happened is that since our last case, Aqua's fronted all the money to do all these projects, and now we're asking for it looking back, right?
Go backwards.
And so if we would have done that, and really the answer is that the regulatory mechanism doesn't work that way. We don't work like a municipality where we create an ordinance that does an incremental increase every year. The closest thing that we have to that is that QUIPS fund, right? And that QUIPS fund allows us to do like 2.5% every year, which is very similar to what a municipality might do. But in our case, we can't recover it until we come in for a case. And as Melissa's alluding to, in order for us to do kind of what you're saying, we have to do a case every year, and it's incredibly expensive. This case is probably going to cost upwards of $700,000 just to run the case through the Illinois Commerce Commission, right? And so what we try to do is try to minimize those as much as possible. And sometimes what happens is you end up staying out for 4 years or something, and it ends up being something like 18%, right? So it's kind of the regulatory mechanism we're working with. But the commission does recognize that, and that's why they keep making enhancements to these other rules that allow us to spend money more incrementally, right?
Thank you.
I have a question. What is the QUIPS percentage now that's on the bill? It's going to zero. About where is it at?
It's 5% now.
5% now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who's next? Mr. Snipes.
Thank you, and thank you. Just a question that I hear often from the constituents. This way you can answer because they'll have the ability to see you as soon as we're done with this meeting. Oftentimes there's a question about the quality of the water, and I just saw that you in fact had the best tasting water. However, to many customers, they don't believe that they'll take the bath, but they're out buying water from the stores, and they see these machines saying reverse osmosis and the whole 9 yards. I'm not going to say unbeknownst to them, they're actually taking the water from Aqua, or from the river being provided by Aqua, running it through the machines, and then reselling them at 35 cents a gallon. Myth or truth? Does this process that they're doing, is it needed, or does it better the quality of water as for them going out to the stores and buying it, even though you have all of these mechanisms in place? Myth or truth?
I'll speak from my perspective. So I'll say myth on that. We have great quality water. We exceed all of our IEPA requirements and regulations. And again, we have great people who are operating that water treatment plant. They take a lot of pride. They're drinking that water. We actually have guys who come in, if they don't have our water, they fill up like the Hinkley bottles, and that's what they use. They come to our plant and grab it because they do. They love the quality of the water. They're proud of what they're producing and putting out to the community. Now, personal preference, if you want an RO system in your home, that's something you can choose to do. What RO is going to do, it's going to pull everything out of the water, and Colton might be able to speak to this a little bit better, but I generally tend to discourage that. It pulls everything out. It pulls all your disinfection out of that system, and you want that. You don't want to allow your plumbing in your home to grow bacteria or whatever the case may be. Disinfection is incredibly important to keep that water safe to drink.
Hi, I'm Colton Jane, so I'm the Director of Operations, and my kind of skill set is treatment. But something for everybody to understand, people have done a great job branding that like Primo sort of water through like Walmart or something.
Speaking to the mic, please. I'm sorry. It's got to be on record.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
So the thing to be mindful of is the water that we produce is very high quality, but if people choose to pay a premium for their water, you know, we can't really control that, but it is really unneeded. You don't need to soften. You don't need additional filtration. Really, the water is on par with Chicago water, which is one of the best in the world. So I don't know if there's better education we can provide, but sometimes it's just culture, and it's difficult to get people to trust their water source.
I agree, but then they also think that there's a high concentration of cancer. The cancer rate is high in the water, so that's one of their concerns. So can you also speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. You know, I can speak from personal experience on that. I think if you go back and look at Blanchette's name and that, I've had probably more people in my family as a percentage pass away from cancer at a younger age than probably anybody in this room, right? Most of them lived in the rural areas, never had a drop of water from the river, right? And my dad, my uncle, my cousins. And so if there's an issue with cancer, it isn't with the water, right? It's not with the water. I get upset when I go Burkotts and I see somebody buying water for bulk water at whatever it is, right? 39 cents, whatever it might be. It's, to me, it's a waste of money. We got an awesome supply of water here. It's filtered, it's softened, meets all the highest quality parameters, right? It stacks up right there on every parameter with Chicago and Lake Michigan water, which is the best in the world, right? And so I really don't see the need for it, right?
Any other questions? Mr. Tripp. Sorry, I was just hiding my bottle of water over here.
Thank you for that. You filled it up with tap water, though, right?
Of course,
a lot of people do that.
As far as you know.
A lot of people are asking why the public in Kankakee County are expected to fund a private company to expand to benefit villages north of us.
So, question I hear a lot too. So,
yeah. So the cost for expansion moving forward north is actually built into the rates of the people moving north, right? Now, if the commission consolidates Kankakee with the rest of the state, then it would be absorbed by everybody. But if that's the case, everybody would also be absorbing our treatment plant expansion here, what's serving our industrial growth, right? And so the commission looks at that. They look at it. They find cost of service for each of the areas. If they align, they consolidate systems together because it's more efficient. But if there's a burden to be shared by another community because of that, it's very potential they might not consolidate, right? University Park's a separate rate zone right now. It's a separate rate zone altogether, our Will County operations. If today...
How do they compare to us?
Well, right now their rates are lower because they're on a groundwater source, hard groundwater source. But with the construction of our pipe moving north, their rates would be at least or more than in Kankakee County. And if they absorb the full brunt of the whole cost of the project, rather than be spread statewide, right, they will certainly be more than Kankakee County. But we also have to look at the fact of consolidation is that if we're going to do a major plant expansion here and it's not absorbed statewide, then our rates would be more than other areas in the state. The reality is that some of our areas in the state have high growth. And what's the benefit of consolidation for Kankakee County is that you get to spread the costs, the existing costs, over a greater number of customers. It's really no different than the county, right? In order for you to maintain the costs lower for your residents, you got to be able to grow and expand and grow EAV. It's the same for us. Ours is just capital investment, right? Growth is important for everybody.
Anyone else? Mr. Lear, just a moment, please. Number.
Mr. Chairman, in your presentation, you talked about an increase of $8.08 per month. The other handout you gave indicated a monthly increase is based on the size of the household. So as we're talking to our constituents, it may depend upon the kind of household we're looking at, right? That we need to inform them in terms of what their impact on their household would be.
You're exactly right. And that's why we created this other flyer. That one there shows at varying levels of consumption what the increase would be. So if you look at somebody that uses 1,300 gallons a month, there are a lot of people in Kankakee County that use 1,000 to 2,000 gallons a month, right? Single person living in a home, elderly person, whatever it might be, right? The increase is about $2, right? It's about a $2 increase.
$2.49.
Right, right. So, 1,000 gallons a month would be about a $2 increase, and, so on and so forth. And so it's directly proportionate to the amount you use. And you're exactly right. What we put on there was what was required by our notice. Our notice requires us to list the average bill impact on the average customer, and that just happens to be about 4,500 gallons.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question. What's the capacity of your Riverview station as far as pulling water from the river? Is there like a maximum gallons per day you guys could potentially grow to one day? Is there a limit on what they allow
I don't
you to
believe
pull
there's
out?
a limit. So there's over 4 billion gallons a day
Okay.
that go by that water
okay.
treatment plant. We pull out less than 0.3% is what we're pulling right now. Now our structure that we have in place actually is rated for 80 million gallons a day. Now I can't put that through the water treatment plant.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Excellent. Well, thanks for your time for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Sure. Hey, Melissa. Sit right there. Thanks again. We'll think it might be a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and put this on our website, so at least the people that follow our page might be able to get a better look at that. We'll scan that in. All right, moving on. Vacancy appointments. We have a resignation in County Board District 20, Jason Johnson. And so there's a declaring a vacancy in County Board District 20. Also a removal of Robert Reed from County Board District 6 and declaring a vacancy in the same County Board District 6. So we have 60 days on those. Different days of the resignation or removal. So, we'll hopefully have the process is that we'll bring a candidate forward for the advice and consent of the full board within 60 days. So we'll be getting that together. Hopefully by the next board meeting, full board meeting, we'll have that straightened out. Any questions about the process? Anything? Okay. Certificates of recognition. I have Jennifer Spears, 10 years in probation. Tamika Taylor, 10 years in the circuit clerk's office. Rebecca Cellini, 15 years in the public defender's office. And Ron Whittington, 20 years in probation. Those folks are here. Thanks for your service to the county. Minutes of the last meeting, July 11th, 2017. Need a motion to approve the minutes. Ms. Parker, second. Mr. Tholen, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Claims Committee report. Read those into the record, sir.
As of June 30th, 2017, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your Committee on County Claims would beg leave to report that they have examined the following claims presented and recommend payment. The clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue orders to several claimants payable out of the fund as follows. For the general fund, $1,724,381.34. All other funds, $4,864,342.89, for a total of the month of June 2017 of $6,588,724.23. For the Highway Fund, fees of $249,500, amounts of $249,520.81. All other funds, $1,120,796.35, for a total month of June of 2017, the $1,370,317.16, all of which was respectively submitted by Mr. Johnson, Mr. Legess, Mr. Payton, Mr. Ritter, Mr. Hess, Mr. Washington, Mr. Vickery, Mr. Mulcahy, Ms. Weber, and Mr. Wheeler.
So I need a motion to approve. Mr. Burns, second. Mr. Siroy. That'll be a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Mr. Legess. Mr. Stauffenberg. Mr. Vickery. Mr. Hess. Mr. Tholen. Mrs. Polk. Mr. McConnell. Mr. Mulcahy. Mr. Scott. Mr. Snipes. Mr. Byrne. Mr. Seroy. Mr. Lear. Mrs. Weber. Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Evans. Mr. Payton. Mrs. Parker. Ms. Dunbar. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Under department reports, I need a motion to combine and accept the reports. Mr. Washington, second. Mr. Scott. If we could read those into the record, please.
The county collector's monthly report for June 2017. Total cash and investments of $95,132,844.44. The county treasurer's monthly report for June 2017. We examined the June 30th monthly report of the county treasurer and to the best of our knowledge found to be true and correct. Total checking accounts and cash of $5,426,455.02. In the general fund, a deficit of $6,019,585.19. The Recorder of Deeds monthly report for June 2017. Disbursements to the county treasurer, $137,529.14. The county clerk's report for the month of June 2017. Fees of $29,692.36. The animal control report for the month of June 2017. There were total fees of $32,954.56. In the IPTIP building fund, $109.56, and there were 91 animals handled. The monthly report for the monthly building report for June 2017, total permits of 107 with the total fees of $22,760, a total extra fees of $2,966 for a total of $25,726. And the monthly resolution list from the county trustee from August, 2017, is placed on file with fees of $4,373.10.
We have a motion and a second. It's a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there anybody that needs anything pulled from the consent agenda?
Excuse me.
Give you a moment to look it over. Mr. Snipes?
103.
103. All right. Any others? Final time? Motion to approve consent agenda from Mr. Seroy, a second. Ms. Dunbar? That to be a roll call vote, please.
You me to read those in the record?
Oh, we got to read them in the record. Apologize.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, the removal of Steve Einfeld from the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County Executive Board of Directors and the appointment of Jim Vickery to the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County Executive Board of Directors.
All righty. So we had a motion and a second. Now we can do a roll call.
Mr. Tripp.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Aye. Mr. Legess. Aye. Mr. Stauffenberg. Aye. Mr. Vickery. Aye. Mr. Hess. Aye. Mr. Tholen. Aye. Mrs. Polk. Aye. Mr. McConnell. Aye. Mr. Mulcahy. Aye. Mr. Scott. Aye. Mr. Snipes. Aye. Mr. Byrne. Aye. Mr. Seroy. Aye. Mr. Lear. Aye. Mrs. Weber. Aye. Mrs. Peters. Aye. Mrs. Evans. Aye. Mr. Payton.
Aye.
Mrs. Parker.
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar. Aye. Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 103. Start out with just a motion to approve. Mr. Hess, second. I'm sorry, was that Mr. Ritter? I'm sorry. I had it multiples. We can read that into the record and have discussion.
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, a transportation grant agreement between the State of Illinois, IDOT, and Kankakee County for FY 2018. Whereas the County of Kankakee has applied for grant funding from the State of Illinois through the Illinois Department of Transportation for federal funds passed through said state for its participation in Kankakee County for services and responsibilities regarding transportation needs, planning, and improvement on an annual basis since 1983. And whereas the County of Kankakee has been the administrator for the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which includes the County of Kankakee, City of Kankakee, Village of Aroma Park, Village of Bradley, Village of Bourbonnais, and Village of Manteno, which evaluates transportation needs and necessary improvements, and said governmental entities have entered into an intergovernmental agreement for the utilization and operation of the Kankakee Area Transportation System, CATS, on August 25th, 2010. Whereas the grant agreement with the State of Illinois provides compensation to Kankakee County for such services, and under such terms as are required to be performed under said agreement, and which requires matching funding in part of in-kind services from the county, in which funds shall come from the Planning Department budget. Whereas the Planning, Zoning, and Agriculture Committee at its regularly scheduled meeting of May 18, 2015, after review, discussion, and consideration, recommended entering into the agreement FY18 with the State of Illinois to provide such transportation planning services as are included within said agreement. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Kankakee County Board that the Kankakee County Planning Department is authorized and directs the Kankakee County Board Chairman to execute and sign the agreement for FY18 with IDOT on behalf of Kankakee County. The committee recommends the adoption of this resolution here was submitted by Mr. Altoff, Mr. Tripp, Mr. Washington, Ms. Polk, Mr. Mulcahy, Mr. Hildebrand, Ms. Peters, Ms. Dunbar, Mr. Ritter, and Mr. Lear.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Lear.
I understand the state's attorney's office had very limited time to review this. If the maker of the motion would be willing to include subject to review the state's attorney's office, that might help things a little along.
We have talked. Were you still prefer that a secondary look-see?
I reviewed the new language in here about the federal guidelines. I have looked it through. Would I prefer a little bit more time just to double check things? I mean, wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
But if you'd like to pass it today without that, that's up to you.
The maker of the motion amend? And the person who seconded, you okay with that, Mr. Ritter? Okay.
It's not correct.
Do we need to, I guess, a motion to approve the amendment?
No,
Is it not necessary?
If the maker of the original motion agreed.
They agree? Okay. We'll just move on then. Okay. Alrighty. There is a Scrivener's error. That's not 2015. That would be
this year.
Yeah, we're not. This hasn't been sitting here that long. So, Mr. Snipes, your question, please. Thank you.
Then in addition to the motion being amended, let's have a question for clarifications. We say the County of Kankakee, which is the administrator of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. However, when we look in the body, we say the County of Kankakee, City of Kankakee, which is part of the Kankakee County. But I guess we're looking at Kankakee County when it's in this document as being the including the unincorporated areas of Kankakee County, and then individually including the additional municipalities. Is that what we're doing?
Well, there's the different municipalities part of the MPO, and I think the county administers that. If Jeff, do you want to speak to that a little bit? Am I correct in that assessment? Yeah. That's accurate. So the MPO is made up of a lot of the different municipalities within the county. And so we just administer the funds, and we all get together on planning and on the transportation side.
But the unincorporated area is also included in it some kind of way through the County of Kankakee.
There is a set map that is set by, I believe, the federal government. You please answer that. I want to make sure that I get this exactly correct.
Yeah, there's the urbanized area that's set up by the Census Bureau every 10 years is also the MPO's boundary. So there are some unincorporated areas within that boundary, but our charge is within the inside of that boundary, not the entire county.
Okay. So areas like Pembroke is what I'm thinking of.
No, it does not go out that
It won't
far.
include them. They can apply for something different.
Right, that'd be rural funds.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
I believe Sun River Terrace is in the MPO, was
Yes,
it? Yeah.
it's pretty close to the eastern limits.
Right,
Yes.
okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I guess that's a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp? Mr. Washington? Mr. Legess? Mr. Stauffenberg? Mr. Vickery? Mr. Hess? Mr. Tholen? Mrs. Polk? Mr. McConnell? Mr. Mulcahy? Mr. Scott? Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Byrne? Mr. Seroy? Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mrs. Weber? Mrs. Peters? Mrs. Evans? Mr. Payton? Mrs. Parker? Ms. Dunbar? Mr. Ritter? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye, motion carries. Under other business, there's one opening now on the Kankakee County Board of Health. That is not the dentist. That is a different position. We finally got a dentist that applied. So if there's any other dentist, this is the time, is now before executive.
Sounds like pulling teeth.
Okay, that microphone stays off the rest of the meeting. Until it's time for a motion to adjourn. 4 openings on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission, 1 opening on the Kankakee River Conservancy District Board. So is there any old business? No old business? Under new business, he's still here. Under new business, we do have something here. You remember I was looking at the cost of the NeoPost machine. We've gone back and forth. We have outsourced all of the mailing that we do in the different departments for cost reasons, not price, but it was overall cost that on the burden on the county and the taxpayers. So we finally got that assessment. Our county auditor put all that together. It's in your packet. It describes the savings. So we're the reason I brought it right to the full board is because I didn't want to pay for another month on this lease. It would save us quite a bit of money. So every month the clock is ticking on the old lease. I want to be able to execute a new one. So if I could, to get a motion to approve of me signing this new contract, Mr. Byrne, Mr. Payton is the second. Now, is there any questions about this? Pretty straightforward. We did the full analysis and we're going to save about roughly $6,000 a year. So it's a nice number. So it was worth the effort to make sure we got the right machine for what we're doing. So that is spending money. So we need a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington? Mr. Legess? Mr. Stauffenberg? Mr. Vickery? Mr. Hess? Mr. Tholen? Mrs. Polk? Mr. McConnell? Mr. Mulcahy? Mr. Scott? Mr. Snipes? Mr. Byrne? Mr. Seroy? Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mrs. Weber? Mrs. Peters? Mrs. Evans? Mr. Payton? Mrs. Parker? Ms. Dunbar? Mr. Ritter? And Mr. Wheeler?
Aye, motion carries. Thank the auditor for organizing this, and then also for all the department heads who worked together to get this done. Moving on to the Aqua Illinois rate increase, I wanted to kind of open that up to the floor. If there was any comments, discussions, positions that people want to take, anything that the floor is yours. If you think that the board should take action, should not take action, really, it's just for a conversation. So open that up, Mr. Snipes.
I think because it's before the ICC and it's in the pilot stages, I believe that our position is to make the people aware that they can attend those particular meetings, the ICC meetings, and then also voice their concerns. So I'm thinking at this particular point, the board would just be a kind of a little watchdog if we thought something was, out of place, but we'll continue to watch on their behalf through the process. And if we think we need to take a position at some given point in time, then at that time we'll be equipped to do so.
Any other questions, statements? Mr. Lear?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did investigate and learned that there's a comment period that goes possibly as far as through March, although it is likely to end up by the end of January. So we do have some time here, and if there's new information that comes forward that would cause us to act, we can do it within that time period.
If I may clarify that.
Yes.
Steve asked me to take a look at when the public comment period was open. That period remains open until the end of March when the board makes the decision. Excuse me, the commission makes the decision. The reference to January is only my estimate of when the judge is going to pretty much have his opinion made when all the evidence is presented and all that. But the comment period does go until the completion of the whole process.
Thank you.
So, Mr. McConnell.
Yeah, I would be against the 18.9% rate at one time. I would favor incremental. I understand the process takes time and take money, but an 18.9% whack at the beginning, I think it's excessive. I would not be in favor of that, but I would be in favor of. I realize that all the construction, I've been there, done that, but on the homeowner side of it, I'd like to see a smaller increase per year over a period of time instead of at one time.
Anyone else? Mr. Tripp.
Should we not take a stand or a recommendation of some kind?
And that was kind of the board's choice at this point. I mean, somebody could make a motion, somebody could not, but it was more, I think what I'm hearing is that we have time. We have time to reach out to the constituents in our districts to talk to them about it now that you're armed with some information.
Okay.
Maybe it's time to get their feedback. I can't see many people who would be saying, yeah, raise my water rates, but maybe if they have more of an understanding of what this is for and that it's not supporting growth in other areas and supporting our industry, they might have a different opinion. So, Mr. Snipes, one more time.
The reason that I stated that we'll take the watch to see is because I wanted them to have the same opportunity we had this morning to review this on YouTube, and then that way, if they have any additional questions or comments or concerns, they can reach out to their respective representatives, and then we can come back and make more of a intelligent political decision as to the direction that we need to go if in case they decide that they have some opposition to the increase after reviewing the same material that we have heard this morning.
Sure, thank you. Any other comments on that subject? I think there was one other piece of new business. Mr. Lear, you had something?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to make a public comment in terms of an issue that I think is going to face the county because of the governor's mandatory veto in regard to the budget. Most of the members of this board are probably conscious that a mandatory veto is going to put county government in a very awkward spot because of the fact that the mandatory veto kind of sets up a conflict between TIF districts and school funding. And those school districts where TIF districts exist, as I understand what has happened, are going to see decreased funding. And so I hope that we can find out a little more in terms of what kind of funding costs there would be. Possibly this could come before the appropriate committees, community service, and because it involves economic alliance, if it even needs to be before PZA. But it appears county officials will have to make some tough decisions whether they want to promote economic development or they want to promote school funding. Under my understanding of the governor's mandatory veto, we're not going to get both.
I think it's worth looking into a little bit more. I'm going to reach out to our counties association, see if I can get a little bit more information on that. And I will also talk to our state rep to see if I can figure out some things on the side to look into that. You know, I haven't, to be honest, I haven't heard of that angle. It sounds like it makes sense. I could talk to actually Mr. Clark, who has a great knowledge of the TIFs around here, to see if we might be able to sit on the side and figure some things out. I think it is appropriate to bring that back to committees, though. Obviously, you know, we have people rely on us for that information. Mr. Snipes.
Concur with that as well, because only in the state of Illinois we don't tie TIF to the school districts. Other states do, so perhaps we need to look at the other states and see how that funding is in fact done, and how we can either benefit or basically learn from that particular process. We're the only one of the only states that don't have the school district tied. And then I just have one other thing up on a new business if we exhaust this.
Any other comments about that subject? Please, go ahead.
Okay, and my only concern is, and someone asked me, but I gave them a unqualified answer, but I want to make sure the answer is qualified, and that is their concern was the city of Kankakee was assessed by the Illinois Revenue Department with a little bit over $250,000, and since they came back, had to reevaluate and gave them like 800-some thousand that they had to pay, but my understanding is the county is not even a part of that and will not be assessed in any way as far as that's concerned. And I want to make sure that I am correct in that interpretation.
You're correct. We didn't get a letter, which is odd because we were both tied to the same sales tax sharing agreements. So I can't speak to the validity of what the letter was that the city got and the action they're taking. It's just kind of curious that we didn't get the same error, if there was an error. So there's nothing, there's no there yet. And hopefully there won't be, to be honest. I don't see how it could be if it was a one-time mistake. But anyway,
Correct.
To answer your question. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn, Mr. Legess? A second? Mr. Mulcahy. All those in favor? Opposed? Have a great day.